Welcome back to the Care Advocates. I'm your co-host, Lance A. Slatton, and as always, I'm joined by my esteemed colleague and friend, Dr. George Ackerman, also known as Sharon's son, George. Welcome, George. How are you?
Good to see you. It's always an honor to be back, especially the topics on caregiving. And today's special guest is someone I consider family in the fight for a cure. And we were just literally together in New York City, and we'll talk about that. Supporting Michael J. Fox Foundation at the Unity Walk. It was our third time, but no bigger warrior than our guest today who stood out there waving and screaming, cheering people on in the freezing cold when I couldn't feel my own hands for probably 4 or 5 hours. So it's it's an honor to have her with us.
Worth every penny. I found out this morning. I just posted it, $2 million raised. So all that standing out in the rain was worth it, right?
Well, that's a good segue, George and Ann, to welcome you, Ann Smith, to the Care Advocates. We appreciate you joining us today. I'm going to kick it off and then I'm going to turn it over to George. But, you were a longtime family caregiver and you're a tremendous advocate for Parkinson's disease. But I think it's important to note that the scope of the disease does not just affect the people who have the disease, it affects their family. Why don't you share a little bit about your story and how that really directly impacted you as the caregiver for your father?
Um, I'll go after George, and I'll just say I'm Mickey's daughter Annie. Okay, so because I do consider George like family. For 17 years I uh, did advocacy work, but I did it all on like private social media. And then when I got featured on nationally and on something, and George was the first person that reached out to me, and he was the first person I ever met that I felt such a bond with, that had lived what I had lived. So that was a natural. That was just a natural. He was the first person that reached out to me, and then got me involved with this amazing community. But as far as my dad's story, I'm not as long of a caretaker as someone like George was. My father was diagnosed on October 3rd, 2013, and I lost him on August 19th, 2016. So the only thing I can say about that is, we were just down in DC, and the numbers, I live in New Jersey. The numbers for people who have Parkinson's, they say, are 32,000. I definitely think it's more than that. But so for every 32,000 of these people that we officially know have Parkinson's, there's going to add another person to that. And that's going to be the caretaker, the advocate. Hopefully there's a lot more of those, and sadly some don't have anyone. But there's always going to be someone connected. So double the number of the people that are suffering from the disease. And then you have the family member who, for me personally, my mom wasn't really around. And I had my dad. And, I walked away from a career that was just blowing up. My career was about to just go through the roof. I don't have any regrets for that ever. I'll never have a regret for that. And you think you're financially stable, you think my dad has a great retirement. It's not cheap to be sick. And then you get to the point where now we're going into year 2 and you're starting to think, you start to financially struggle a little bit. But on top of it, the most important thing when you're dealing with it's constantly putting out fires. You're constantly putting out fires. You're not sleeping. If he had a lot of visitors, and thank God I could take a nap, and it was just, you're constantly putting out fires. You're constantly making sure that you're the caregiver. And for me, I was the sole caregiver, and you're constantly putting out fires. But on top of it, the worst part is that you're watching the person that you love the most on the planet, the only person you really have, your best friend, you just watch them decline. So you have all this just mental anguish of watching it. You're the one there 24/7 watching it. But then you're realizing, like, now things are getting hard financially. Now we have, just, there's just so much involved in it. And everybody would say to me, which I'm sure you would say, if the caregiver doesn't take care of yourself, you're not going to be a good caregiver. It's so much easier said than done.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. The caregiver has to care for themselves first, so that they can care for their loved one. Before we go and toss it over to George, I just want to ask you a quick question. When you were in the middle of this career that's just taking off and getting ready to explode, and you're doing all the things that people do, working and planning for the future, all this stuff, and then you get that call or you get that notification that dad has Parkinson's and you need to be there for him. You probably weren't planning for it, you weren't preparing for it. Nobody usually does. But what did you find yourself that helped the hard days be a little bit easier? What resource or what did you do to kind of make it through those difficult days? What worked the best for you?
I actually did have a little bit of notice because my dad was injured. He had a military injury that for about 2 years, he was misdiagnosed for about 2 years due to some rare thing that happened to him. So we knew there was something wrong. We didn't know it was Parkinson's. He didn't have a tremor. He didn't have any of the real telltale signs. So we knew something was wrong. So I actually was fortunate in that situation where I kind of cut my work schedule down to 4 days a week. And then, but gradually, once I realized, now we're at the point where I have to be here with him 24/7 because, and one thing he never complained ever, but the one thing I know now looking back is that he was scared. He didn't want to, he was scared, but he would never admit that. And, so I actually was fortunate in that I knew he was getting sick. We didn't know what was wrong with him, but I was able to cut down to 4 days a week so I could be here a little bit more. And what got me through those days, the question that you asked, I honestly don't know if I was able to, if someone visited and I was able to simply get some sleep. The career, it was, you know what? The good news is that once I lost him, I didn't just get my career back. I got it back and then some, so I was like determined, I'm going to make you proud, so that was a positive. And I did that because I thought that's all he ever wanted was for me to be successful in my career. And I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, what piece of advice would you give to someone that might be waking up today and later in the day, they're going to all of a sudden find out that their dad or their mom or their spouse is going to need them and they're stepping into that caregiving role? What advice could you give them to help them manage those difficult days?
Find a good support system. And had I known, I didn't participate in any kind of, like I said, everything I did was on private social media. But to know if someone in this knows that this community actually exists, you're going to get a lot of help. And one of the biggest regrets for me is I had no idea this whole community even existed when my dad was sick. I was in caregiver groups. I was in a lot of them, but everybody's story is different. And it's just different when you're doing this kind of like face-to-face interaction and you're having conversations with people or you're meeting people in person at these events. Obviously, we don't have time to go to, fundraisers or walks when my dad's sick. So I would say if someone's waking up today and this is the first day of that journey, to definitely get involved. I mean, get involved because we have a huge community of amazing people. And one person may have a different story because this disease does affect people differently. Reach out to these amazing people that I am so happy that I can call friends, and even someone like George, family now. There's help out there.
Well, we really appreciate you, carrying on that advocacy work, well after, your caregiving role had ended. And, we just really appreciate you joining us here on the Care Advocates. I'm going to turn it over to George. And
Well, thanks for having me.
One area that's fascinating is, and I'd love you to comment, is what drives you to keep going. One thing that unfortunately breaks my heart really today, and every day, is when you go on and try and avoid social media some days, but when you're on Facebook specifically, like the groups, every single day on every single group, I'm actually keeping them. I'm not putting the people's names, but I'm keeping a little folder of my own. And every single day they're saying their loved one passed away today due to Parkinson's, goodbye, and sayonara. So my biggest pet peeve in a way, but one thing I've struggled for 6 years and still don't see even after, and I don't mind calling everyone in the world out, but even after bringing it up to every CEO of every organization in the Parkinson's community, they have obviously a division for people diagnosed, which obviously we need first. And number two, we have caregivers living, helping those diagnosed living, which is perfect. But why is there, and then you don't might not have an answer, but curious on your view, and we've spoken about this, but why is there no third division of people like both of us who still want to advocate, still feel our parents matter and still have a voice, but for people who lost one due to Parkinson's, it's to me.
I'm sorry. Thank you for all the help over the years, but I'm leaving the group. It's every day. Yeah.
What do you think and again, we can't answer because we're not that position, but why do you think organizations, I won't say specific names, but don't have a specific division for people like us? That's a tough question. You don't have to answer. I have.
I certainly don't have an answer for that one, but I do second how discouraging it is to see the constant stream of posts of, my loved one is gone and thank you so much for your help over the years. And they simply leave.
What about more something that you can obviously discuss is what drives you? Because standing out there, I couldn't feel my hands at the Unity Walk because it was so cold. And
Never intended to disclose this when I went to public social media, but I actually have MS and Reynolds is part of that. And I can't be in temperatures that are like that. And then I started to see, oh, we're getting a little blue here. So, yeah, it was hard for people who don't have that. And I was like, but not, it just didn't matter. I mean, at that point, it didn't matter the enthusiasm and just the fact that we knew we were out there for a reason. I definitely struggled the entire week after that walk, but, you know, yeah, I don't, those are questions that I certainly don't have answers to. That's Lance, the professional, may have a better understanding of that mentality.
yeah, well, Lance and you spoke about earlier, but there's something inside, I guess, of all of us that drives us. Obviously, we can't bring back my mother or your father, but we don't want to see other families have to see what we did, and it's sometimes it's tough. Like last areas. I mean, I just on TikTok the other day was kind of upset. Sometimes I just scroll by and ignore it, but someone literally had a video. And she was some young, maybe maybe a physical therapist that you don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it, and also that it's not a death sentence. And it's, again, every journey is different, but for our parents, it was, at least for mine.
So me too. It was a death sentence. So
I just think honesty, like you are to me, always 100% is the most important thing. There's nothing to hide. I've been really open, never hid anything, and I think if we don't tackle tough topics, that we'll never find answers. So I want to send it back to Lance.
Oh, thank you, George. And, again, thank you, Ann. I just, a couple things before we wrap up here. And first, where would you like people to go who may want to follow your, advocacy and the work that you're doing?
Well, a lot of us hashtag things on, especially, I think Instagram might be the best platform for me because you have the, PMD Alliance, Michael J. Fox Foundation. You have all the big, I didn't find that to be on TikTok. Facebook, you're on there, but Instagram, when you can hashtag things, hashtag Parkinson's awareness. And you're always going to be brought back, or first start with the big organizations, because then you're going to see the people that they're tagging in with. And then you can just kind of go down a rabbit hole. I started public social media like in the fall or something. And, I was just mind blown at how many people are actually in this community. But that's, like I said, I owe that to George because he was the first person that reached out to me, and I thought, well, maybe, I should use my voice, even though I was just quietly just trying to fundraise and, do it in my dad's honor. I wasn't going to, I always said, I'm going to finish his fight, and, I lost some real in my situation. It differs a little from George's because my dad had a surgery that was related to Parkinson's, and he was on paper. He was the picture of health aside from that Parkinson's. But he had a surgery, and unfortunately, his heart was perfect. But a few days later, he had an embolism, and he collapsed, and he died right in front of me. So I saw his eyes die literally right on where I am now. And I didn't even get to like hold his hand and say goodbye to him. So there's a lot of things that we're all going to experience that are different, and a lot of things that may weigh on one person more than another. Whereas I always thought, this is going to progress, but at least I'm going to get to lay down next to him and tell him it's okay to go and hold his hand. And I would definitely say the biggest advice for anybody who's just becoming a caregiver is to just have the love and the patience. And because that's, you have to just somehow find the strength. I didn't know I would have the strength. I thought, I certainly didn't know what kind of strength I had until this came. Have the love and the patience and give that to this person because they don't want to live with this disease and they need you. And so somebody just coming into this, there's so many resources. If you just go through the hashtags, you will be. My account is what is it called? Here Until Parkinson's is Gone. And I am pretty thorough as far as filtering, legitimate things, and I do share information with legitimate. And just as George's page, George is mind blowing to me for everything that he does, and I have found so many contacts simply by George tagging in with someone who then I can. So it is a great community, and if they are just entering it, I mean, as much as social media can drive you up a wall sometimes, in this situation, had I known that this whole community existed 10 years ago, or I'm sorry, whenever, my dad was during this period for me, I would have had more support than just a caregiver group of, I need help. My husband just did this or that, or, you would have been having conversations with people and a community that is we really are out there. And I wish a lot of people didn't do exactly what George said, as far as just simply thanks for, the years of support, but I have to leave the group now. That does make me really sad as well. I would love to see them stay on and advocate, and but it doesn't happen. But I would like to add one thing. My aunt is a psychiatrist. She's married to my uncle, who was the head of neurology for the VA nationwide. And as a psychiatrist, this is my dad's sister. Every day, my aunt would say to me, Annie, if you don't take care of yourself, because I'm winding up in the hospital for all kinds of things, my aunt would say, if you don't take care of yourself, you are never going to be of any help to him. And now my uncle, unfortunately, is sick. And I just flew out to Cleveland to spend some time with them. And I see that my aunt, who is a psychiatrist who knows this, she's struggling to adhere to that advice of care for yourself, or you're not going to be a good caretaker. So it's so much easier said than done. And if people know that it is easier said than done, but you have to find the strength somehow. You have to, shower them with love and be strong and find the community, because we are out there.
Absolutely. Well, Ann, that's a great way to wrap us up today at the Care Advocates, and we're just very appreciative for your time joining us, but also for your continued work and advocacy to finding a cure to Parkinson's and supporting these families who are, going through that journey.
We have to do it, and I know George shares the same sentiment. It's not, we have to do it. It's not, it's not, okay, my dad's gone now, so life goes on. That's not how it works. We have to do it because there's too many other families that, unfortunately, I'm not going to cry. Just, you can cut me off now because I'm going to cry. There's just too many families out there that live that nightmare of watching this person you love more than life itself, and on top of it, the financial burdens and the constant, so I would really encourage them to just, reach out and know that we are there, and, just, you know, be strong. You have to be strong. You can figure anything out. When I was on the brink of my amazing career, and then it turns out now I'm not working, which I'd never done in my life since I was 14 when I started working. Now I'm not working, but you know what? I started selling on eBay. I got my travel agent certificate, just to do things that could keep an income in. There's things that you think about, that you can get creative with this. You really can. And I would really encourage people to just, sit down and really make a plan of action, of, how to be able to stay strong, how to be able to stay financially secure. And, but at the same time, shower that person with love, and take care of yourself. I know that's easier said than done, but, take advantage of every person that comes to visit. Take a nap, get that nap in, because you might not sleep for 3 days, but get that nap in. And a good support system is definitely the key. And my only regret is that I didn't have this support system when my dad was sick, because I think there could have been a much different outcome as far as my mental status at the time.
Well, and like I said, you're there advocating and raising awareness, and letting people know what you wish you knew back when you were first starting out on that journey. And we just appreciate it, and we'll continue to support you and all of your incredible work. And Dr. George, it was great as always to have you here today. Help us with the Care Advocates, and we look forward to seeing you again next month.
George, you're the best. George is truly my family. He really is. George is just, I don't know that I can't thank George enough for everything he's done. And I personally don't think George gets enough accolades for what he does, but George is simply, to me, he's something that I inspire to be, but with my own health issues, I can't always be as, but George is the best. So I'm really happy that you, at least tell. Yeah, he's the best. Yeah, I'm lucky.
I even on my tough days when I want to give up, and then I see Ann, we're fighting literally by each other's side live in Washington at the Capitol, and New York freezing, and that's what keeps me going. But especially, unfortunately, this weekend is going to be Mother's Day, so that's the worst day for me of the year, and I know Father's Day is one of the toughest for you, Ann. So as I go visit my mother, unfortunately, it'll be a tough day, but then I think of you and all those still battling their families, but even more importantly to me, it's those we've lost due to Parkinson's, that if we don't stop, then they won't live on, but as long as we keep fighting, they live on through us all. So I wanted to thank you, Ann, too, for your time, and Lance for your...
Well, George, say what you said. Say exactly what you said to me when we first met. Sharon and Mickey didn't race quitters. So that's how we have to look at it. Sharon and Mickey didn't race quitters.
Sometimes I wish they did, because like you said, the health thing, you're supposed to take care of your own health as a caregiver, but as an advocate, I've thrown that out the window too. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that I'm so unhealthy, and I know this all started, but I'm working on it. But and it's not just physical health. I mean, your mental health absolutely, takes a huge decline. So, but for someone that's just starting out, please know that there's a big community of people who truly do care. My inbox, we all respond to each other. Nobody's just going to let someone hang in this community. It's an amazing community, and no one's just going to let you hang.
How do they find that community? Where do they go?
I would just simply look for the big companies like Michael J. Fox Foundation, PMD Alliance, AOPD, these huge companies. And then you can really just see who they're tagging in with, start following the accounts, and then you'll realize that there's just regular, normal human beings like George and me, and you can connect.
Is there a specific group name though on Facebook that they can join, or?
Well, I mean, George is Together for Sharon. I'm here until Parkinson's is gone. There's a ton of them. There's a lot. I mean, Karen has a great one. She's Be Brave with Parkinson's. Lori in Boston, she's amazing too. I mean, everybody has their own handle on Instagram, but you will be able to find them if you go to the large organization groups, because they're all going to be, tagged in, and it's pretty easy just in the hashtags, Parkinson's awareness, and that will rabbit hole you down into filter you actually down to people like me just sitting in a bedroom in New Jersey that will have no problem, messaging back and forth, because we're not these big organizations that can't always reply to every message. We're just people who lived it and can share our experiences and hopefully try to help someone have the strength to be able to get through something that George and I lived. And but we're not going to give up. I mean, as many messages between George and me I can say I don't want to admit to the frustrations over a lot of things. We're never going to give up. So it is what it is. We're just not going to give up. So for these people that are entering it, my heart goes out to them. I feel terrible that they are now in this awful club, but with the resources out there that I'm sorry I didn't know about, have a good support system. Definitely keep an eye on your financial situation, because that's one thing I certainly didn't do. I thought we were completely financially healthy, but the medication and everything, it's just so expensive to be sick, and I wasn't monitoring that, and it turns out whoa, we're kind of not as financially strong as we thought we were. And, there's a lot, but anyone like George or me would be happy to, reach out to people coming into the Parkinson's community and do whatever we can to direct them to the right places or to help them. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we'll have all that information in the show notes as well as up on the screen. And thank you again, George. Always good to see you, my friend. And we look forward to seeing everybody again here next month at the Care Advocates. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lance. Bye, George.
Thank you for joining us again here at the Care Advocates, where we're advocating for you. We look forward to seeing you again here next month.